Welcome to Tiger Woods Workout Rescue, and I really appreciate you being here today. Firstly, I'm not here to trash anyone. Everyone's got to figure out what works for them in their own mind, and what I'm going to talk about today is really how I see things as it relates to exercise, and my perspective is through physics, logic, common sense, and personal experience. Now, from what I could tell about Tiger's workout, there are several key areas that I'd recommend changes. First, you'll hear me say full range exercise a lot, and there are 10 requirements of that, which I'll go through a few today. Also, secondly, the tools Tiger's using and the exercise selection I feel can be better. Now, let's quickly go through a few components of full range exercise. Now, one of the biggest flaws of free weights and cables is that they work a small percentage of the muscle in a small range of motion because they only provide resistance in a straight line. And humans are rotary animals. All joints rotate around an axis. Secondly, resistance needs to automatically vary and be properly balanced to the potential strength of a muscle in every position. And thirdly, most free weight and cable exercises, there's almost no resistance in the finishing position, which is the opposite of what's required. Now, here's Tiger doing curls. I'd like you to be aware of two things when looking at this exercise: horizontal distance and torque as it relates to where the weight is to the bicep. At position 1, the start of the exercise, there's zero torque on the bicep as the weight hasn't moved yet. If we look at position 2, as we start the curl, the weight travels farther away from the upper arm and we start to feel the resistance. Halfway through on 3, the distance the weight has moved from the upper arm has doubled from the starting position, and we all know this part of the curl is the sticking point. The weight feels the heaviest. And the reason is because gravity is pulling straight down and it's 90 degrees to the forearm. At position 4 is the ideal finish of the exercise, but as you can see, the distance the weight is from the upper arm has actually gotten closer, and therefore the weight's actually lighter at this point. And in position 5, most people rock the elbows forward slightly, which eliminates any torque on the bicep. The weight's actually nothing at this point. The effective resistance provided by the dumbbell or any free weight doesn't match the strength curve of the bicep due to the straight line resistance. The weight is variable but not balanced, going from light to heavy to light, when you really want the resistance to be the sticking point at every position. In a nutshell, that's full range exercise. You can imagine how much stronger you'd be if that was the case. Now here's Tiger doing some box jumps. I really wish I would have been involved in Tiger's program 15 years ago, because explosive exercises just set you up for injuries. You see a lot of athletes doing these. Just go on YouTube and you'll see a bunch of golfers jumping on boxes, throwing medicine balls, flipping truck tires, pushing weight sleds. And right after that, Google their injury history and there's a correlation. As a professional, I wouldn't have a multi-million-dollar athlete using a $20 plywood box to jump onto. Not the most technically advanced tool out there. Here we go again with the explosive exercise. It appears Tiger's in the catch phase doing a power clean on the left. Now, just take the basic physics involved. You're jerking the weight off the ground to get the bar going. Once the weight's moving throughout the movement, the weight actually becomes weightless due to momentum. And then you're catching it at the top. Tiger's joints are exposed to phenomenal levels of acceleration forces. Momentum is encouraged when performing cleans, and I discourage anyone from using momentum while lifting weights unless your sport is Olympic lifting. It's just not worth the risk, especially when there's more effective ways to enhance your explosive power without the danger. Now, if we look at the exercises on the right, the one-leg ball bridges, I've done them myself and with clients. They can be challenging, they're safe, but is it the best way to strengthen the legs, hips, lower back, and core? No, because it doesn't provide rotary, balanced, and direct resistance. With Tiger's resources and depending on how he rehabbed his back, I recommend the MedX lower back machine, which is the gold standard for strengthening the lower back. Combine that with the Nautilus Duo Squat targeting the hips and legs. Machines like these are engineered so that every position the muscle is in, you have the right resistance. Here's Tiger doing some dumbbell lateral raises. Now, if you remember the physics of the bicep curl, at the beginning of the movement, just as in the curl, there's no torque on the arm and therefore no resistance. As Tiger starts to raise his arm up, the angle between his arm and the direction of force is increasing. Remember that with all free weights, no matter where you are in the movement, the direction of the resistance will always be straight down due to gravity. About halfway through, the angle between his arm and the direction of resistance is increasing, and the shoulder muscle is activating more at this point. 85% of the way through the exercise, the muscle is finally working. However, we're almost done with the rep, and we've only now just started to get productive stimulation. Here we are at the finish. The arms at the top of the movement, shoulders at full contraction. Again, imagine how much stronger Tiger would be if with a proper full range resistance throughout the movement. And apply that to the rest of the body, and you can imagine how much more performance you get by doing full range exercise. Here he is doing some cable shoulder raises. It's real easy to see where the resistance is coming from. You just got to follow the cable. Now, at the beginning, his arm is almost in line with the cable, so there's little resistance. Halfway through, the arm's at 90 degrees to the cable, which is the maximum amount of resistance during the exercise, the sticking point. And finally, at the end, the angle between the arm is decreased, and there's very little resistance at this point. And since cables aren't rotational, similar to the bicep curl, the resistance varied, but it wasn't balanced going from light to heavy to light again. Tiger doing deadlifts. When done right in a smooth, controlled fashion with no jerking of the weight, a highly effective exercise. They aren't full range, but they have a tremendous positive effect on overall strength. As long as Tiger's injuries and the muscle imbalances were corrected, I'd recommend deadlifts. Note the weights, though. They aren't round. Anyone who's done deadlifts with these types of weights know that if the flat part isn't lined up with the ground when you set the weight down, the bar can twist on you between reps. Under load, that can cause injury. Now, here's what I'd recommend. Tiger's had a multitude of injuries and surgeries since being on tour. I'd recommend a fitness regimen of safety first, less wear and tear, and maximizing strength and flexibility. Modify the explosive exercise to maximize performance. And working out in a full range fashion would give Tiger's muscles and joints the ability to be the strongest they can in any position during all the demands of golf. Training this way will not only allow Tiger to perform at the highest level, but it will do so with the least chance of injuries. Also, utilizing the most technologically advanced equipment available. I appreciate you joining me. If you found something insightful or interesting, I'd be very grateful if you shared it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to send me a note. Thanks again.